women are apparently no longer to be called women. You and I need to start calling them inseminated persons. I'm Marcus Peter, and these are my commentaries. So, Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers, he's defending a decision to include the term inseminated persons as part of a state budget proposal. And so the language is going to enshrine women as inseminated persons.
Gender-neutral terms for mother and father are inserted dozens and dozens of times. The language is included in everything from sections on birth, marriage, and divorce, but also sections on taxes and state hunting and fishing license. An abstract from the governor's office about the budget says the gender-neutral language was inserted to, quote, harmonize Wisconsin statutes with the Supreme Court decision that recognized same-sex marriages. One Republican state lawmaker says this is about minimizing the importance of mothers.
Now, at some point, he backtracked the statement by saying that the reason for doing this was because he wants to validate IVF. We're going to take a look at the clip for a while.
What the Republicans say is a lie. So of course I'm pretty PO'd about that. All this does, it gives people a chance that are using IVF, which I think Republicans are kind of okay with that.
I have had friends all across the country saying, what is your governor trying to do? Getting rid of the term mother and father, 75 days from Mother's Day. So I think it's a prime example of where sometimes politicians focus so much on the people who are inside, they forget what real people are thinking.
Now, you see the problem here. The problem really is this. This isn't the first time that woke ideology has sought to push for the subjectivization, if I may coin a term here, the relativization of language. Why is this crucial? Why is this necessary for them? Because if they can co-opt our language, if they can redefine for us what's objective, then you and I can no longer claim that there is an objective truth. And so this really is the weaponization of language. Jordan Peterson in 2016 wrote in his book, if they can control the words you use, they can control how you think. That is the reality. Because whether you and I like it or not, the way we think is discursive. And as soon as we come to a certain mastery of language, this happens from a very young age, by the way. As soon as the intellectual rational nature comes to a capacity of language, that is how we think. We think in and through language. When we apprehend what are called phantasms, images in the brain, so that we can come to draw reasonable outcomes, the way we manifest that is by means of language. From our earliest age, we understand that there's a certain objectivity to linguistic expression. Some people might come back and say, okay, but yes, language has evolved over time. Yes, it evolves organically by means of societal usage. It doesn't evolve overnight when someone suddenly says we need to start calling a particular subset of the human race, I don't know, about half of the human race in the United States, or at least in the state of Wisconsin, and start calling them inseminated persons. For the record, as a husband, as a man, and as a father, that is infuriating. It is a tremendously demeaning attitude to approach women for whom their identities are greater than just being inseminated, and to then say that your motherhood, your womanhood, your feminine genius is completely defined by the fact that you were inseminated. There's something really perverse about this. And that's what you and I need to capture. Because if we can see the perversion, we can start standing against it and saying, no, motherhood and fatherhood are objective realities. This is the problem with woke ideology, a critical social justice theory, which attacks anything that is objective in the public sphere. Woke ideology wants to deconstruct the frameworks of reason, of objective truth, of objective morality, and essentially Judeo-Christian morality and divine revelation. All those things that brought about the wondrous flourishing that we see here in Western civilization. Woke ideology, critical social justice theory, seeks to deconstruct this, because then absolutism and control can be the rule of the day. Now, that's a topic for another conversation. Right now, this is a battle you and I need to wage. There's something very Orwellian about this. In his book 1984, George Orwell actually wrote these words. The destruction of words is a beautiful thing. Don't you see that the whole aim of newspeak is to narrow the range of thought? Because if you and I can look at women and say, well, you're nothing more than an inseminated person, we've narrowed the range of thought. There's no dignity to womanhood Your value right now is that you're an inseminated person. This is a real abuse of language. Joseph Pieper, one of my favorite philosophers, in his book Abuse of Language, Abuse of Power, he wrote, "The degradation of man by language abuse is possible only because language is essentially something sacred." So yes, truth is communicated by language. And the language we utilize has an objective value. Truth is not something that is determined by a majority opinion. It certainly isn't something that's determined by democratic vox populi. Rather, it is determined by revelation. It is determined by reason. And it is determined by society grappling with the reality of reason. So, my friends, look at the women in your lives right now and tell them, you are women. There's something inherent about you that is contained in the feminine genius that's infinitely greater than the reality of being an inseminated person. Let's fight for this because this matters, because this is what the Christian narrative is all about. Maleness and femaleness in complementarity. Man and woman come together and build society. Thank you for joining us. I'm Marcus Peter.